DreAllDay.com. DreAllDay.com. A follow-up topic that I want to talk a little bit more about when it came to this whole Kyrie thing. Also dovetails with the Kanye thing, where many people have taken, let's say with the Kyrie situation, they went and looked up. Actually, let me just tell you what the topic is. The topic is history is a story. All right, it's literally the history. If you break it down, I don't think this is actually where the word came from, but people break it down in a tongue-in-cheek way. History means his story. Again, broken down in a tongue-in-cheek way. I don't think it's made as a compound word, but you get the point. And the point that I want to get across here today to everybody is that history is a story. Meaning, anything that you and I were not around to actually witness with our own eyes, which means we don't know it to be no absolute fact, and we don't have any, let's just say, a specific record of the thing taking place, then it becomes a story. And what it becomes then at that point, or what happens at that point, is we get to choose which story we are going to believe and which story we're not going to believe. This is how we got religions in the world. The reason we have religions with a S, plural, is because different groups of people believe different stories about whoever created them and whoever the higher being is. Many people who are religious, for the most part, all agree that there is a higher being. The question is not whether there is a higher being or not with religious people. The question is, who was that higher being? Where did they come from? What do they believe? And what should you believe based on what that higher being's teachings were? So it's not a question of if it exists, it's just a matter of which version of the story do you buy into. That's how we get different religions, right? So Muslim, Christian, whether you're, let's say, Baptist, you're Catholic, you're Jewish, they all just believe different versions of a story, that there is a higher being and here's how it happened, and the other group says, no, this is how it happened. Other group says, no, this is how it happened. Other group says, I agree with some of that, but this part I don't agree with, this is how it happened. So there's just different versions of a story, right? That's all history is. Religion is the exact same way. Therefore, because of this, a story can be questioned. All right, that's the thing about a story. See, the difference between a story and a fact is a fact cannot be questioned, because a fact can be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. It can be proven in black and white. So there's nothing to question because it can be proven. All right, that's what makes a fact a fact. And it's black and white. You look at the definition of a fact. A story, on the other hand, is a version of events. And the wording is very important there. A story being a version of events, meaning if you and I both experienced something, even if we were both there, right? Let's say me and you both did something. We both went to an event, and something happened at that event, and somebody asked me what happened, and then somebody asked you what happened. I got my version of what happened. You got your version of what happened. My version is not any more right than your version of what occurred. Now, I could claim that you're lying. You can claim that I'm lying. But unless we got some video footage, let's just say, that can prove the difference, if we got to just go off what I said versus what you said, it becomes a he said, she said, or he said, or she. Then if we don't have anything that can prove it, then we just got to go off of who's going to believe my story versus who's going to believe your story. And this is what his story is. His story. I'm making all of that point to make the following point, is that all history can be questioned simply because there is no video black and white evidence that all of it is 100% true. Now, there may be some parts that can be proven, but it doesn't mean all of it can be proven. And that also doesn't mean just because one part of a story can be disproven doesn't mean the rest of the story is not true. And by the same token, flip side, just because one part of a story can be proven true doesn't mean all of the story is true. So sometimes a part of a story can be accurate, another part can be inaccurate, and a part of the story can be inaccurate but can be accurate. That means history can be questioned, which means if someone decides to question history, or someone decides to question the story of a religion or a belief that you have chosen to accept, that doesn't make them wrong, and it doesn't make you right. And even if there's a majority on one side or another, if you happen to be the minority and a whole bunch of people agree with one version of a story and you don't agree with that version and you're questioning it, just because it's a bunch of them and only a few of you, doesn't make you wrong, doesn't make them right. And on the flip side, if you happen to be on the side of the majority and you and a whole bunch of people agree with one version of a story, and there's a handful of people who are questioning and or disagreeing with a version of that story, that does not make your group right just because there's more of you than there is them. All of this can be questioned. Again, what does this all come down to? This all comes down to the skill of critical thinking. The challenge for a lot of people is many people simply are not critical thinkers. They don't have the ability to think critically. And the reason why many people fail to think critically on certain subjects, some people just don't think critically at all. And actually, I'm gonna keep it real, some of you who are watching this video don't have the ability to think critically, even if you agree with me. Some of you are agreeing with me on what I'm saying right here, but many people just don't know how to think critically. It's not that you don't want to, it's just you don't know how to, because you've never been introduced to the concept. And one of the big things that one of the big reasons a lot of people can't think critically is because when a subject is emotionally triggering to them, their ability to think logically goes out of the window because the emotions overpower logic. Any of you who knows anything about sales, you know that people make decisions based on their emotion, and then they come up with a justification based on logic. So on certain subjects, specifically things like race is one of the biggest ones, religion is another one, sex is another one, sex or gender, whatever you want to call it, that's another one that's a hot button topic these days. Politics is another one. Those 4 subjects, was just limited to those 4 subjects for the sake of this conversation. On these 4 topics, and many of you who are listening to me right now, I'm talking about you too. I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about you as well. Many of you cannot have a logical conversation about these subjects because you are too emotionally triggered by the topic. You can't have a logical conversation about race because you are too emotionally triggered about anything involving race, or about your political leanings, or if you happen to be you happen to have a strong position on the gender, sex conversation, or what was the other one that I said, or religion. If you happen to have a strong position on these topics, you can't have a logical conversation about them. I have strong positions on some of these topics, not all of them. I have a strong position on religion. On politics, I don't have a strong position. On gender, I have a strong position in that a boy cannot become a girl cannot become a boy, but I'm not blinded by my emotion on these subjects. I happen to be a critical thinker. I'm a very logical thinker. Even to a fault. I'm that type of person. But a lot of people can't have these types of conversations because they're too emotionally triggered by the very subject itself. And this is something that I want, if we could get everybody in the world understanding this and understanding where their blind spots are on these subjects, we can have a lot more productive conversations on these subjects. But right now, it's hard to have productive conversations on these because people get so emotionally triggered that they start pushing out logical fallacies. They start making, what's the word that I want to use? They start making personal attacks rather than attacking the point that somebody made. They instead attack the person, and they're blinded because their logic goes out. Logic goes out the window. You make somebody emotional. So if you want to move people to action, the easiest way to do it is to get them emotional. That's the easiest way to move somebody to action. But you still need the logic, because once somebody's emotion calms down, because emotion is like, setting a fire. Eventually the fire goes down. When the fire goes down, you still need to have some logic so that you don't lose that person. They don't like change their mind because they realize that they were emotionally triggered. Now by the time they start to think more calmly and logically, you still need logic to help them make sense of the emotional decision that they made. The challenge for a lot of people is a lack of ability to think critically at all. So I want all of you to check yourselves on your ability to think critically. Check yourselves on the logical fallacies that you may be using just because you want to justify an emotional idea that you have decided to accept. And again, the better we can get everybody to get on this page and understand it. It's not that we're trying to eliminate emotion. That's impossible. Human beings are emotional. We all have emotions. Some people are more in tune with theirs than others, and some people default to theirs more than others, but everybody has emotions. We just got to get better at controlling them. We got to get better at understanding when our emotions are driving us, driving our actions and thoughts, versus when our logic is driving our actions and thoughts. And if we can do that, we'll do things a lot better. Damn, they tore this whole thing down. I'm just driving around, driving a place I haven't been in a couple weeks. They tore this thing down in a week. but it's progress. That's what we call that. And we will get more progress as people. Speaking of progress, we can get everybody thinking logically instead of thinking just emotionally, especially on a subject that you are strongly bought into. All that said, text me to get my daily motivation straight to your phone every day. My number is 305-384-6894. And get your ticket to my next live event. It is called Work on Your Game Live. It will be happening here in Miami. I mean, y'all can't really see it. I mean, but if you can look out the window, you see me while I'm driving. Get your ticket to Work on Your Game Live. It will be here in Miami, February 3rd and 4th, 2023. For all of you who are serious about stepping up your performance, stepping up your consistency of performance, and as a result, making more money in your business. That is all happening at Work on Your Game Live. Get your ticket by going to workonyourgame.live. Workonyourgame.live. That's where you get the ticket to the event. I will see you there in February. Work on your game. Dre all day.